Hello, and welcome to the village. Welcome. Hey,
Welcome,
come
guys. Hey.
listen. Welcome to the village. I'm your girl, Dr. Roz, CEO and founder of the Village Leadership Group LLC, and
They know who I am, but I'm your girl, Coach Williams. I am the content supervisor for the Village LLC.
listen. We're so glad that you guys are joining us. We are a professional learning community of teacher leaders coming together to inspire, to motivate, to encourage, and to share best practices. We believe teacher leadership is a mindset and not a position. So we want all teachers and teacher leaders to come together and share best practices. Let's build our community of teachers, right? Listen,
That's me.
we are a village of teachers. We have to pause and celebrate what Teacher Appreciation Week. Listen, we salute all teachers, all educators. Listen, shout out to you guys. We are doing our thing. We do it all. Isn't that right, Coach Williams?
Everything.
This is our
Yes.
time. I love the fact that it's right here by Mother's Day because it's like a 2-for-1. So for all
Not a
mothers,
2-for-1 special.
exactly, all mothers and teachers, this is our time. Happy Mother's Day, happy Teacher Appreciation. Hello, we need all the gifts. Bring it to us.
Yes.
So, Coach Williams, how are you guys celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week at your school?
So I don't want to give it all away because we have some people tuning in, but we have daily specials. um, for our
Okay.
educators. We actually kicked off the week and we gave everyone an apple because they're the apple of our eye. So everyone had snacks throughout the day. And teachers, we love, I don't know if it's just because we always use it, but different school supplies and things. So that's how we kicked off Monday. And then tomorrow, we're going to have a special celebration just with notes and things to celebrate our teachers, written especially by their students. And then Friday, we'll end the week with a lunch. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, again, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we are saluting our teachers. At my school, we're doing some of the same thing. We're getting the breakfast, the lunch,
Ooh,
and different, things. Just, a little shout out, little surprises, little tokens of appreciation from our principal and from our administration. So again, shout out to all teachers. Enjoy your week,
yes,
and this is your time too. So happy
you
Mother's Day.
definitely deserve it.
We're doing a lot, okay? All right, so with that being said, it is also fourth quarter, and we've enjoyed spring break, but now it's time to end our school year. And many school leaders and teachers are coming together to plan for next year. So,
Mhm.
that being said, we're thinking about how has the pandemic impacted education and what we do. So we want to make sure we really, be intentional with our plans. So we have a guest with us today to help us celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week and help us reflect on next steps for next year. All right, welcome back to Visionary. Come on back.
Yay!
So good to
So,
see you all again.
welcome back to the village. Please reintroduce yourself to the village and also shout out our teachers.
Absolutely. So, hey everyone, hi Village. My name is Bijane Kareem. I'm an educator, author, equity advocate, and founder of BK International Education Consultancy, where our social good mission is to amplify education equity by building educators' capacity to create and sustain innovative learning spaces. So, I'm exceptionally excited that we are in the week as well as the month of teacher appreciation because the education
Yes.
field is made up of more than 80% of female educators. So we're celebrating all of us here. So it's good to be in the circle with you two wonderful, powerful female educators. So thank you
Thank
all. Pass out to you.
Well, thank you for joining us. Again, you are an advocate for great literacy and books in schools. we're going to talk about that as well. That's something that we need to think about for next year as well.
Yeah.
Shine a spotlight and a focus on literacy. So, with that being said, let's talk about it. What has been the impact of this pandemic on education? What are some of the challenges that we face? One of the things we talk about is that heated debate about learning loss and how our students have struggled to kind of catch up. And then again, that is an issue. So I'm gonna start with Bijane. Talk about that. Like, what are some of the challenges when we talk about student achievement and learning loss? Talk about that.
Absolutely. And when you have conversations around education, even prior to the pandemic, it's never just one thing, right? It's not just one variable. It's a lot of these different pieces that are culminating together that's creating this massive challenge that we're facing today. As you mentioned, learning loss is a huge thing, right? So I think the pandemic shone a light on a lot of the inequities that school systems and children face, as well as educators as well in their roles and their position. And so in terms of learning loss, yeah, we're all in the race for learning recovery, whether it's, at the literacy level, right, which is the foundation for a lot of our education. Moving from traditional forms of instructional practices to more hands-on, culturally relevant approaches that engage kids. A lot of times, it's quick to look and see, oh, those kids are not engaged, they're not paying attention. Well, that's a symptom of something. If they're not paying attention, just think about for you. If you're not paying attention, you're not paying attention. Is it something relevant to you? Is it something that you're interested in? So we have to use those pieces as data points to really unpack that and uncover what is the root cause, and then build forward with those pieces. So definitely starting off with culturally relevant, on and integrative learning, right? It's not enough just to teach literacy over here and then we shift to math and then we go to social. We have to integrate because that's how we experience our world.
That's so true. So true.
Coach Williams, talk about it with some of the challenges we've been facing.
So, I'm gonna come at it a different way. Of course, we were virtual and now coming back in, I did not think about the huge impact it was going to have socially with our students. Those babies, they came back and they were so excited to be back and be with each other, but they have been interacting digitally, right? Virtually for so long that now those social interaction skills aren't there. And we're having to kind of go back in and teach not only the content, but also how to interact with one another in a positive manner. So combating that, still trying to move forward with the curriculum, it's been very hectic. And I think that's something that we did not consider when we first walked in, how heavy that impact would be and how to equip our educators to deal with that. We're good at, I'm good with the math. I got you all day long. But now, why is Jonathan so mad at Jose and they just can't get along? And it's something that might have stemmed from just that gap on communication styles.
Definitely. And you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talk about social emotional learning. It's been a huge impact. Just the number of students who are also, depressed, they have anxiety, and just dealing with the trauma of the pandemic and some of the challenges that we all face, right? And then also having, that compassion and empathy for our teachers and for ourselves as leaders. That has been a huge shift in mindset change. Is that, we're all going through so much and have gone through so much. And then when we go back to school, we just can't say, oh, we're right back to the old thing, the old way of doing things. No, we have to be sensitive to our emotional needs and the things that we've gone through. So when we reflect about our challenges and our lessons learned, and we're starting to think about next school year, where people are saying, oh, the pandemic is over, we still need to, right, exactly, y'all know that, no, like, the damage has already been done. Like, we still have to slow walk this process and really be intentional about what we're doing in our schools and still be sensitive to the needs of our students our teachers and our parents as well. It's going to take us a while to get out of this, and we can't just say we're going right back. We have a new norm. We have to take the good and the bad, and figure out what to do next. And as leaders, we have to slow walk it and really be intentional. So I want to hear from you, Bijane, because um, you kind of talked about culturally relevant, books and different things. And that is a lesson learned. During the pandemic, we did put a lot of time and effort into diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And we talked about, culturally relevant instructional strategies and resources. And that is something we want to take with us moving forward, right? So talk to us about that. Why is that such an essential thing to take with us and as a plus?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I see is while there's a lot of challenges, I think there's a lot of opportunities that are before us. And so the one thing that I definitely love, and I'm hearing that you all speaking to it, is that before, the pandemic, there was this high focus on academics, 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 right? And now we're moving to, no, we really need to focus on the whole student, right? Their social emotional well-being, their mental health, as well as the educators. And so there's an opportunity there with this whole child perspective, as well as for teachers and educators. I think the other, and with that, when you're talking about whole child, you're also talking about their culture, right? And I don't just mean like the color of their skin, right, or what their ethnicity or racial background, but also what speaks to them, like what community that they grow up in, the language that they speak maybe at home. All those pieces should be leveraged. Their cultural capital should be leveraged. They should be able to see it represented in their instruction in authentic ways, in order for them to like, oh yeah, that's me. I can understand that. I can relate to that and be able to move forward. And so what I would like for us to do as a society is not to see DEI or culturally responsive as a band-aid for the pandemic. This was needed prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic, the pandemic, like I said earlier, really shone a light on all these inequities, and now it's like, okay, we cannot ignore this any longer. And so I love your point, Dr. Roz, is that we're really going to have to take some time to untangle and slow walk, because before it's like, okay, a mile a minute, and we have to get this done and get this done, but it doesn't prove that it benefits the entire student or staff as well. And we're seeing the rippling effects of that now, right?
Bijane, girl, you are speaking to my heart, because when you, because you think about all the other layers to it, right? And I'm gonna throw in another piece. We didn't consider how that parent, that guardian, plays that integral role.
Yeah.
When these kids were virtual, it was really a community. I had to say, Mom, please wake up so and so.
Right.
The
village. You had to tap into the village.
I'm gonna tell you just a quick story. I was on the committee. I had to call home for students that we weren't seeing. So I called this one family, and the mom, it was like 9:30. The mom told me, oh no, so-and-so said that they're in class every day. And I said, I just pulled the report. Named child hasn't gone to any of their classes. The parent tells me, oh, they're out for lunch. Mom, it's 9:30 in the a.m. Well, I don't know the schedule. I'm so glad you said that, because on our website we have it. However, give me your email. I'm going to email you the schedule. So-and-so should be here. And I'm also going to email you the links for where he should be. And I'm going to check in with you at the end of today and beginning tomorrow to make sure he's in. Guess what? Named child was not on my list anymore. But it was that piece, Now, granted, the families had access to all of these other things, but that personal touch, calling in, checking in with that family. And now it's that accountability piece, like, dang, she's not just checking on my child, she kind of checking in on me too. But also equipping our parents with what they need to be successful. A lot of times we see these kids as being mini adults and, oh, they got it. They know what they need to do. And they're children. I remember being in high school. yeah, I know what I need to do, but I also know I want to talk to my friends. I also know I want to go to this party. So guess what? Your homework isn't important. But if I have that other set of accountability partners, my parents, on my tail because their accountability partners at the school also let them know, like, hey, you can check their Google Classroom like this. You can make it an app on your phone. Just certain things to look for. I think that also became a sticking point that we as educators need to continue to leverage.
Definitely. All right, so put that on the list.
Lesson learned.
Lesson learned, and we're gonna keep that. Listen, y'all helping me. You know what? The village, I don't know for y'all. This is for me because we have a leadership retreat coming up, a leadership meeting. So y'all helping me plan. So thank you very much. But as leaders, we have to think about next steps and taking our lessons learned. Shout out to you, Principal Cafele. Thank you for joining us. Again, we are talking about lessons learned from the pandemic as we're planning for next school year. We need to think about what's the good and what's the bad. What are some things that we're going to leave in the past? We're not taking it to the future. We're not taking it to next school year. And then what are some things that we can leverage? What are some things that we want to bring with us next year? And we already talked about parent involvement, keeping our parents engaged. Check, that's on the list, right? Our focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Check, that is on the list for next year. We're keeping that in our pocket. All right, so what else do we need to keep in our pocket for the upcoming school year? All right. Okay, everybody raising their hand. What else are we keeping on the list?
Go ahead, Coach.
Look, I'm ready. You see, I think I already had my list made. But you know what? Honestly, having keeping the technology as our focus, but here's my caveat, because you think you throw a Chromebook in front of a kid and you think that's technology. I'm sorry, I said it, somebody had to say it. But really training our educators on how to incorporate technology to increase rigor and wait, modeling the expectation for the student. Because I've been in so many classes, and math is my thing. I've been in so many classes where students are typing, and I'm like, well, where's your pencil? Where's your paper? They're like, oh, I can do that? Yeah. So sometimes we have to take a step back and model the expectations for the students. Yes, they are good with technology, but that's their cell phone. Y'all know they can TikTok it, Millie Rock it. They can do all of that, right? Ooh. But you have to teach, you got to break it down and show them exactly what you want. They're not YouTubing how to answer a problem. They're not, okay? But that's my thing. Technology is good, but everybody has to be informed. Everybody.
Yeah. And I would say in advocating, especially since we're advocating and honoring teachers this week, I would say, how about we increase teacher pay as well as fully stock those classrooms? I hear you all mentioning for Teacher Appreciation Week, and teachers don't even ask for much, right? Like, let's give them some school supplies, give them some food, let's feed them. Simple things. With all the billions of dollars that have come flooded school districts, why are teachers still paying out of pocket for classroom supplies? I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Take care of your teachers.
Yeah, take care of your teachers. Take care of your teachers. Yeah. And let's also streamline some of the processes too, like operationally. Like, do we really need to take attendance 5 different ways in a day? Do teachers really need to do that? Like, I get the importance of attendance, but we can't keep adding on teachers' plate and nothing is coming off of it. Let's streamline our operational systems.
I just had to jump in here real quick.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because Sean heard me. He said that paper pencil math. That's what I'm talking about. I gotta highlight anything with the math.
Right. But we have to get back to that because I'm a mathematician too. And I was in a math classroom recently and all of the students were writing with a pen. And I was like, oh, my heart is broke right now. Mathematicians use pencils. But again, that's old school. So, hey, I got to kind of, I don't know. Coach Williams might have to help me out to understand mathematicians using pens. But that's a whole other story. But let's get back to it. So we talked about some of the things that we're going to keep on the list. But we talk about teachers. That's been one of the challenges, right? Teachers leaving the profession. We can't find quality teachers to sign up to do this role. But, we have a passion and a heart for teaching. So we want to keep the teachers going and involved and engaged and excited about this work, right? So I love what you're saying, Visionary. Take care of your teachers. We talked about that in our school district when we talked about self-care, taking some of the workload and stress off of our teachers. So we need to keep that on the list. My principal put massage chairs in all of the teachers' lounges. I know, right?
I'm coming to visit.
Me too.
But just little things like that. So teacher appreciation can't just be a week. It can't be a month. It has to be all school year long, right? We have to always take care of our teachers, make sure they feel appreciated and supported all year long. So we're gonna keep that on the list, right? Anything else? We talked about too, BJ, about literacy and the focus on literacy. And one of the things that I'm reading on social media, and one of the challenges with technology being such a focus, is that students are losing that love for reading and for reading actual books, right? I know in my school, a lot of the reading teachers are giving students PDFs, right, of like little excerpts of stories. And that's what they're reading. That's what they're analyzing. But you put a real book, a chapter book, a novel in front of them. It's like, can you just send me a PDF of the chapter? So is that a problem, BJ? I know you're the literacy person. Is that a challenge, or is that something we can learn from and try to revamp it?
I dabble in a little bit of everything. So in thinking about integrative learning, I would say it really depends on the student. So for example, myself, I'm a hands-on, I'm a visual type person, right? So what may work for me may not work for another student. And so really understanding and developing those relationships with your students to know what tools best grab them and engage them, I think is going to be key. So if PDF works, keep using the PDF. I mean, if the point is to get them to read, let them use what tool, right? But if it's a hard book that they like, then give them a hard book that they like. So I would say it's a case-by-case basis. The purpose of technology is to leverage technology to be able to do something, right? So whether that's for literacy purposes, whether that's for creating a presentation, right? Whether that's for whatever that's for, whether it's for teaching, whether it's for students to complete whatever it is to leverage to do something to get to somewhere. And so understanding your kids, having a relationship, knowing what their best methodology is, I think is going to be best, because there's never a one size fit all, right? So we still have to differentiate that. And then also just being mindful, like we are in the digital age. So yeah, like it's not uncommon or shouldn't be surprising that kids are glued to technology. Like they're it's the digital age, right? So I don't think those are bad things. I think we just need to realize it as a data point, like, oh, okay, this is what they do and this is what they prefer. How can I incorporate that into my instruction so I can grab their attention and to take their learning to the next level? So that's my thought on it. Coach, sounds like you want to tap in on that too.
No, I was agreeing. It's still meeting them where they are. I think that's what technology allowed us to be, also flexible. Because now I've taken away a lot of the excuses for kids why they couldn't do the assignment. I was out. It was then. You can do it. It's there. It's available.
It's online.
It's online. If you want a hard copy, you could. If you don't, you can print it from home. If you have access to a printer, you could come in. There are so many different ways that we can approach this, and I think that's something else that we've kind of had to adapt to. And I think that's what we need to continue to be flexible, but not without accountability. I think some people use the word flexibility as a way to not be accountable. This is still the deadline. This is still what you have to do. But
still have standards to meet, right? Exactly. Right. And then also, what materials are we putting in front of kids as well? Like, are kids being able to see themselves in stories?
Right.
I believe Sean Hurt mentioned that, like making sure that the books are relevant, right?
Yes.
So exactly. I mean, just think about things that you all like as adults to read, right? We read a lot for information, right? All day, all the time, reading email, this, that, and the third on TikTok, social media, whatever. But then in your spare time, there may be a certain genre that you particularly like or gravitate towards. Kids are the same way. So just being mindful of that. And that practice should have been in practice before the pandemic.
Right.
We just need to even more pay attention to it now.
Well, let's not look. Don't say what should have been in practice. Don't say
right. It should have been. Again, here's an opportunity to get it right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, those of you who are just joining us, we of course are celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. We already voted that it's going to be a Teacher Appreciation Year. Moving forward, Teacher Appreciation will be a thing all year, school year long. And we're thinking about also lessons learned from the pandemic. How has this really changed education? And most of us are planning for next school year and thinking about our data points. I know Mr. Sean Hurt is all about looking at the data. And we're going to also, talk about that too. Like Bijane said, looking at our data points, moving forward, what do our students need? What do our parents need? Our teachers need as we're planning for the fourth quarter. So,
and what do our leaders need?
Right. To recap, we're going to keep a few things on the list for moving forward, but we have to be sensitive and be intentional and leave some of that old stuff behind. All right. So let's talk about that. What are we leaving behind?
Oh,
what are we not going back to? I know it's fun talking about the stuff we're going to add. What are we going to take out?
Dang.
I would say just doing things for tradition's sake, right? Like going back to your point about being intentional and strategic. Like, we culturally we may have done this as a school or as a district, but does it really meet the mark? Looking at that data, is it really essential for us moving forward? And that even goes down to the lesson plan. Like, okay, we have them do all these things, but what is really essential and what is core to their learning and their learning mastery? Same thing for educators. So I would say we're gonna leave behind just doing things for tradition's sake, and creating some new cultures and some new practices that get down to the essentials of what's
right. It's funny that you said it because I had someone ask me about pacing and the curriculum and all the amount of standards that are in the curriculum. They've been saying that the teachers feel pressure to teach all of the standards in the curriculum. And they was like, so Dr. Gaskin, do teachers have to teach all of the standards? Do they have to stick with the pacing? And Dr. Coach Williams and I, we know we've led so many collaborative planning sessions. But you have to look at your data. You have to see what is it that your students need and what's realistic, because you cannot teach 1,000 standards. You can't. So, Coach Williams, let's talk about that. Like, we want to use the data and making sure that we are using that data to drive instruction. So that's going to be moving forward. We want to keep that and being realistic.
And honestly too, it's also about being realistic, knowing your students because you've looked at the data, but also think about those data points that aren't numbers. You know what I'm saying? You pick up a lot of key points from your students. I just noticed Dr. Ross put her head down. She don't ever do that. Something is going on. Is it going something at home or is it this content? Bijane, she normally turns in all her homework and gets an A. What happened? Your kids are telling you, like, look, sis, I don't have it. Taking into consideration, I sit down with the Algebra 1 team a lot, and we talk about our big rocks. What are the big key standards that our kids have to know for them to move on? As an Algebra 1 teacher, am I setting them up for failure, moving on to geometry, Algebra 2 and beyond, if they don't know this? Right. This is what our babies need to know. Let's hone in on that. But how do they need it taught to them? A lot of times districts are getting into these lesson seeds and they give you some good stuff, but it might not be geared to your core group, So let's look at those standards. Yeah, we're not going to be able to teach all of them. And I'm not even stressing that, but I'm in the classroom and honestly, I feel like I'm held accountable to those kids. And how can I make sure that I leverage everything so that they're not met with failure later? I want them to be successful, not only in my class, but beyond.
Yeah, and that really speaks to the point about for tradition's sake, right? I think in education we get stuck in more is more, right? More is not more. It doesn't mean people retain more or or any of that. So back to what you all said, being strategic, let's pare it down. What is essential? What is essential? What is essential?
It's so funny, you have to know your curriculum too. I don't want to step on any toes. But I'm just saying, I've had some courageous conversations with educators teaching things that are no longer relevant. Zip my lips on that one. That's a whole nother episode.
Exactly. So again, guys, thank y'all for having a pre-meeting for my school's leadership team. I'm going to make sure I rewatch this so I can jot down all of the points and make sure that we as a school take away all the things that, like Bijane said, we're just doing because it's tradition. It doesn't make any sense. It's from the small things all the way to the big things. From the school uniform, like, big earrings, little earrings, black socks, white socks. Why? Why?
Purple socks. Do you have those socks?
So we got to make sure we really analyze all of our school policies and procedures, making sure things are culturally relevant, making sure that things that we do are engaging for our students, right? And we're going to take care of our teachers when all school year long.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. So, Bijane, tell the people a little bit about how they can reach out to you, what things you have going on, and then we're going to share some final thoughts as well.
Absolutely. So everybody can contact me through my Linktree. So it's Linktree/BK Consultancy. And we have some resources, some grant writing resources for educators, as well as if you go all the way down to the bottom, it's my Let's Get Social part where you can connect with us on LinkedIn, IG, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So all those links are there for you all. It also hosts an upcoming conference that is actually, I'm based in Atlanta. So we have one that I'm presenting at, always a teacher. It's called Teach Your Heart Out Atlanta. It's June 6th to the 7th. And I'll be doing 2 sessions. So one is called Shift Happens, moving from arts and crafts to STEAM. And then the other session is on where the money resides, finding flexible funding dollars for classroom and schools. So I'm excited about that. First time back in person again after a long while. And so that link is also, you all will have access to that, the Teach Your Heart Out conference. And then we were talking about literacy and culturally relevant literacy. So I definitely wanted to share our upcoming program with one of my nonprofit partners, Metamorphosis Powerhouse Company. It's a virtual program. It's a family literacy program and culturally relevant, might I add. And it has 2 prongs. So the first prong is that we help support families in building up their home libraries with culturally relevant stories for kids. And this is specifically for children ages 3 through 5. So we want to help support developing reading rituals at home and building strong readers before they even enter into school. And we teach families, what are some best practices in reading aloud or reading with your child? And how can you make that story come alive by coupling it with a STEM activity? Because as you all mentioned earlier, it's not just about the academics, right? We have to have students and children tap into and practice collaboration, communication skills, critical thinking, and dabble with their creativity. And so this program helps to support that. And the other prong is that we help support educators, whether they're pre-K educators or even childcare providers, also learn how do you select culturally relevant text. Just because you see a brown person on the cover of a book doesn't mean it's a culturally relevant text. It can perpetuate stereotypes. So we teach educators how to select culturally relevant text, as well as how to engage with families through this reading program. So that's also in the chat for you all to access, and that's called Transform the Spark. And so we're excited to share that literacy program for everyone. And currently for families, it's free. It's virtual. So that's great. It's on Saturdays, usually like for an hour. And we run for about 6 Saturdays or so. And then for teachers, we have a training. For educators, we have a training, and the cost is minimal because we had some grant funding to help offset those costs. So it's a win-win. They can get CEUs, and again, we're helping to build strong readers before they even enter into school.
Wow.
Yes. And they can fall in love with real books.
That's right. That's right. They have copies of books.
That's just my thing. I'm sorry.
Paper and pencil. Real
yes.
book.
So final shout outs, BJ, for our teachers, for teacher appreciation.
I'm just gonna say for everybody, all the teachers. I'm a fan. Having been an educator myself, my hat's off. I did not teach through the pandemic, so anybody who's had, you have a special place in my heart, and hopefully heaven as well. So I'm giving a shout out to all the teachers, teachers. So thank you all for so much for what you do. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I greatly appreciate how you show up every day in the lives of children.
Well, thank you so much, BJ, for your work and your commitment as well, and for pushing, literacy and helping schools and families get access to great literature and books that are culturally relevant. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming back to the village and hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Anytime, anytime.
All right. Woo, Coach Williams, we did it.
That was good.
I feel like I cheated.
You did. Now all the notes. It's like I'm doing all the
notes that I'm taking back to my school's leadership team. So I appreciate the village for helping me plan for next school year. Y'all walk right into that.
See, it takes a village,
guys. For joining the village, helping us celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week. That is going to be Teacher Appreciation Year. And also helping us to plan for next school year, because again, we want to make sure that we're not just going back to the old way of doing things just because of tradition. We want to make sure that we are continuing to be innovative and thinking outside the box to meet the needs of our students, our teachers, and our parents, right? It's a community. It takes a village.
Takes a whole village. And some
more. Exactly. So continue to follow the village on Facebook and Instagram at the Village LG. And remember, teacher leadership is a mindset, not a position. See you next time.